Would you look at this match that we have here? What? It is in the bottom left-hand corner from Storm Gaming. He got that win over Hero before this match. He's looking pretty on fire. It is GUMIHO. In the top right. From the Quandom Freaks, played a full 3-game series against Classic to make his way here to the finals of the ESL Open Cup Korea number 125. Is the one and only SOO. I'm casting these back-to-back from the SOO series because that's the ones that I had the replays for. Hello, I'm TitanOnFire. There is thunder coming through, so we'll see if I can hopefully cast this all in one sitting. But I hope you are all having a wonderful day. How's it going? It's been a while. I'm really hyped to be back. I have missed casting. I have missed these games. I was watching the esports from my little couch at work, and I was like, oh, I miss it so much. And we're back. And I'm so excited that we're back. And we got a TVZ, which is always, I think, one of the best series, or one of the best matchups, just in general. I mean, always so fun. Man, of course, this will probably be released after Valencia does come to a conclusion, but because it hasn't just yet, I'm going to throw out my predictions for what happened, and I'm going to see if it goes crazy. Of course, neither of these players are in Valencia. SOO and GUMIHO, of course, SOO is actually currently in the GSL. GUMIHO did not end up qualifying through that initial round of 24 to the next stage, which was a bit unfortunate for GUMIHO, I think. Definitely showed some sparks of brilliance, especially versus Rogue, but it didn't quite amount to anything when it came to the full 3-game series. Now, as I said, Valencia's going on. I'm excited. I could just talk about it, but I'm gonna hold back. I'm gonna take back what I said. I'm gonna show some restraint, and I'm just gonna enjoy the matchup that we have now. There's thunder in the distance. It is setting the ambiance for this matchup, which is sure to be a clash of some titans. I mean, both these players online have looked absolutely brilliant. I do apologize for having the camera there on the SC view for so long. I was taking a sip of water. But both these players online are extremely good. And this is something that is interesting about SOO especially, is that online he's able to beat the top level of players, but when it comes to LAN, from what we've seen, at least from GSL, it has looked a bit shaky in places, especially in his qualifying match past the round of 24 versus beyond. That game 3 was extremely close. And he just ended up winning because Ravagers aren't armored. that was the reason. Ravagers aren't armored. He was able to push and kill his opponent. You know, the tanks really didn't do what they wanted. They didn't get the value that they wanted. But GUMIHO is a much different player. Yes, indeed. GUMIHO is a much different beast. This is a fast 3rd CC. It's going to be Hellions. And of course, we always have to remember that GUMIHO, I think, has shown much more consistent variety in his play ever since he has come back. GUMIHO has consistently gone for bio, and we have Stim already started up. And this is, you know, it's felt a lot more comfortable. GUMIHO has not been forcing himself to go mech, but he will still mix in mech every now and then, as that's a nice catch here onto the Reaper. It's still gonna get out though. Very nice. Ooh, 2 Hellions gonna make their way on in. The drone block, not the best so far. You're already gonna lose 3 drones here just to the 2 Hellions. It will eventually go down, but GUMIHO is gonna be pretty happy with the fact that he gets some value for those units. Overall, it's about, what, 50 minerals less efficient for GUMIHO, but you get rid of the mining, and overall, that evens out as 2 more Hellions here, but you got Speedlings, so you gotta be careful. Some good micro so far here. Ooh, GUMIHO. Very nicely done to avoid the Zergling surround. As engineering bays are on the way, and ooh, those engineering bays. Oh, those engineering bays. GUMIHO. This is exciting. This is looking like it is potentially going to be a 3-base, 5 racks, just constant pressure build. I don't even know. It might go up to an 8 racks pressure from GUMIHO here, because these are very quick 1-1 upgrades, mind you. There's not a lot of units out on the map right now. GUMIHO has been foregoing getting really anything other than the Reapers, or the Hellions, the Reaper, and some Marines, one at a time from this tech lab. this TechLab barracks. Other than that, it's just been constant work production, add-ons being built here for these barracks, and yeah, this is going to be a very, very fun build here from GUMIHO. 3 racks on the way. The starport was only just now put down. Because guess what? You can delay that a little bit because you don't need those medevacs right away. And now it's a non-stop marine production. 4 racks, or 3 racks for right now. And I imagine 2 more will be added on. There's the 2 more. And GUMIHO is going to be preparing for a very, very strong timing attack. Now, the real question is, will SOO be ready? Baneling Nest is on the way at the 3rd. It is going to be fully saturated. 61 workers already. We aren't seeing SOO take a 4th just yet, though. And it is going to be a little bit late for the Zerg here when you're already at this high worker count, knocking that 4th. But there's a reason. Spire going down. SOO does want to just sit on this 3 base, get his full gas mining going, and then take the 4th behind the safety of the Mutalisks. Now, where does this get risky is the question. Because you're going to be having this 1-1 push from GUMIHO. It's lined up with Stim, combat shields, but mind you, you're also going to be having potentially a very, very quick 2-2. And one of the biggest issues that can arise with Mutalisks is not only the fact that you're going to be banking up minerals, but if you do end up getting those mutas, the best way to stop mutas from killing you is to try and kill your opponent sometimes. And so if GUMIHO has enough to beat the ground army, the mutas either have to decide, oh, do I want to just make this a base race, or do I actually defend? Now, 8 banelings are on the way, but that's a big supply block. That 1 overlord is actually going to be massive. SOO can't build anything here for the next few minutes. It's more banelings on the way, more zerglings. Finally, he's going to be able to add on a few more as some overlords do pop. But look at this. There are hellbats with this push with the armory added on. 2-2 is going to be started up behind it. And GUMIHO just going more all in on the production. 9 Marines at a time, 2 Widow Mines as well being added on. He's not going to let up this pressure even if this first, bout is defeated. And look at this. The reinforcements are actually going to inform GUMIHO that there is a flank that was getting set up, so he just pulls back, clears out the creep. SOO is going to pull away these Zerglings to look for a run by, but you already have units available for GUMIHO across the map, and they are in position. And this is going to be a very, very nice spot here for this Size Storm Terran. 9 mutas on the way, but again, this is where it starts to get a bit risky. Once GUMIHO gets into Widow Mines, once he gets into double-pronged attacks on this map, splitting it with 2 armies, those mutas, you are going to have to find damage with them if they are across the map. You're going to have to try and keep the Terran busy, and then it just becomes a battle of micro. And in that kind of a battle, that's where these games get interesting. As +1 air attacks is on the way, +2 again. He's going to be approaching the halfway done point here for GUMIHO, who's actually pushing quite far here onto the creep just to get rid of those creep tumors. Is going to meet up with the rest of his army. It looks like he's bringing all of them over. Has the Widow Mines now added on as well. It's 89 army supply to 86. There is not a definitive swell here for SOO, but he's going to look for the surround. The pickup's going to come through as the reinforcements come in. GUMIHO gets out, taking minimal losses. It's going to be pushed back for now, though. But GUMIHO's supply is just continuing to go higher and higher. 100 army supply now. Ooh, Widow Mine shots are going to be dragged quite nicely onto all those Marines. The splits are not going to be able to come through. SOO is just looking to roll over this entire army. This Widow Mine is not even going to get that good of a connection as GUMIHO tried to drag the Widow Mine onto those Mutalisks and does a great job of it. As now pulling back, GUMIHO can try and find an efficient trade here, and he's going to be able to. The split on the Marines is pretty good. Not pretty good. It is pretty fantastic there for GUMIHO to be able to hold on and not drop the game here. Now he has 2-2 done, but a lot of his army is gone. It feels like GUMIHO just got a little bit aggressive there before his upgrades were really coming through. But he's going to be so far ahead. He's actually 4 upgrades up. SOO has only just now started on his 1-1 because he's had no gas since he went into the mutas. This Zerg army is relying entirely on the fact that the Banelings will be able to find good connections and run over the Terran army right now because the Zerglings cannot fight straight up. The Marine Marauder will shred it. The mutas in a straight up fight will get shredded. And 3-3 is already on the way for GUMIHO. Now you do have the +1 flyer attacks done. +2 is on the way. We gotta say, GUMIHO's position is looking pretty good right now. Only down about 20 supply. There is a 5th base coming down here for SOO at the same time as the 4th of GUMIHO. Once again, the mutas are gonna be denied. GUMIHO is just sitting back at this point, adding on more factories. Is gonna go up to 2. with the 3-3. It looks like it's going to be a tech lab to start to work on Thor production. Of course, the Thors offer a great tank option. They will absorb so many banelings, and also the splash damage against the Mutalisks when it comes to these very, very large fights that you're going to see SOO want to look for. With the Ling Bane, Muta, you do not want to split the map. You do not want to be fighting in small clumps. You want to take these fights as one big army. And so that's where GUMIHO can start to find advantages with adding on the Thors. Of course, already has the Widow Mines as a part of this army, and with the 3-3, it can start to be very, very hard for the Zerg to find an engagement, as this drop is going to come through. Finds 2 drones, and the surround is going to be a little bit awkward here for the Zerg. Hellbat finds value, and the medevac is just going to get on out. It will be chased down, it looks like, by the Mutalisks. Ooh, never mind. This Mutalisk flock has been continually growing throughout this game. SOO has done a good job of retaining the numbers, is now up to 23 mutas, which is a terrifying amount for any unit on the map for GUMIHO. Of course, with the Thors, it helps a little bit, but only a singular Thor is really not going to do altogether that much, especially without any attack upgrades. The splash damage of the mutas, however, or of the Widow Mines, is really going to be the difference maker if they find good connections. But SOO continuing to try and distract his opponent, and now he's going to bring in the entire swell of Ling Bane. This position, though, this choke, oh, that Widow Mine almost got the connection of a lifetime, but SOO, he's not going to be able to find his way on in. GUMIHO splits his army very, very well. Shuts down SOO on both fronts there, as SOO trying to roll on in. Banelings going on through, they're crashing on through, and they find the value that they wanted. A lot of the bio ends up going down. I mean, where the Thor is just not even here yet. It must be trapped somewhere in the main, as the mutas are going to be able to absolutely run over everything else. Some great Widow Mine shots, though. And with the mutas so low, these Widow Mines burrowing, it's not going to be quite enough. The Marines are going to have to back up. Where is that Thor? It's trapped. 2 Thors here for the GUMIHO are trapped. They can't get out of the Sim City. Finally, they're going to make their way on over. But if these Thors were here, they could have kept GUMIHO alive, but he's going to tap out for game 1. Ladies and gentlemen, game 2 of this best of 5 in the top right-hand corner from Sci Storm Gaming. It looks so clean until the very, very end. The Thors being trapped might have been the difference maker in that game. It's GUMIHO. And in the bottom left, from TitanOnFire, he's able to find the attack angle, make his way on in, and absolutely blow everything up. Blow everything up. Blow everything up. That's what he was going to do. He's going to blow it up. Anyway, it's SOO. We try and stay family friendly here with StarCraft 2 broadcasts. Sometimes something slips out. I know I've had that experience. I usually am pretty good about it, but there was an ESL B stream where, you know, it just had to happen. I had to slip on out. Anyway, we're on to Hardwire. So I mentioned this in the SOO versus Classic series. Hardwire is interesting because, like most maps, it does have different play styles depending on the matchup. In something like your PvZ, it's going to be a lot different than your TvZ. Whereas in Terran versus Zerg, with the layout of the map, this actually ends up being a map that will go quite long sometimes. You'll see 20+ minute games, sometimes a 40-minute game on Hardwire, because of how the bases are laid out. Your first 4 bases are kind of sequential, and so it's very easy to get tank lines set up and to set up your defenses in such a way that it's hard to break them. And then, of course, the battle becomes around the 5th. And that can be, of course, solved if the Terran takes an early third on this low ground. And then you're expanding up onto these safer bases with the high ground. And you still have so many more bases to choose from. In total, per half of this map, I believe you have 8 bases, which is getting up there, surprisingly. It's deceptive, you know, because if you're looking at it, this is only slightly smaller than Glittering Ashes, which has 9 bases per half of the map. It's a deceptively large map. When you look at it, you don't think that, oh yeah, this map is the biggest, like one of the bigger maps. But it definitely is. It definitely is. As GUMIHO here starts that micro back. Is going to be able to trade off the Zerglings here for, of course, his Marines. Ends up getting the Overlord as well, which makes that completely worthwhile. Oh, Zergling gets on in. That's a bit of a mistake there by GUMIHO. But, of course, there's really not much for the Zergling to see. It sees the starport going down at the usual time. The third command center should eventually be added on as well. It's the tech lab immediately onto the barracks, though, and that is very, very interesting because, of course, it could be for that very fast stim like we saw in the last game. And honestly, I wouldn't even mind if GUMIHO used that build again in this series because he looks super solid with the timing. It just was the transition out and then that mid-game fight where he ended up losing. But yeah, it's going to be for the Banshee. We should see that cloak added on as well, potentially, if GUMIHO wants to go that route. Doesn't quite look like it, though. Third command center, more SCVs, a Hellion as well. It's just going to be a really safe opening here from GUMIHO. The Banshee gives you protection against any Roach all-ins, or gives you a pretty good protection against Roach all-ins. And of course, the Hellion here will help deal with Zerglings if they decide to make their way across the map. You have two of them already out. GUMIHO will send them across the map. And overall, this game is progressing, I think, pretty normally as to what you would expect for any sort of a TVZ on this map. But once again, 4 minutes 15 seconds, and that is double engineering bays that are being placed down here for GUMIHO. And so it is a slightly different opening, but it is a very, very similar transition. And I really don't mind that GUMIHO is using the same build twice. He does snipe 2 drones there, but it's going to once again be the 3 racks. You're going to have faster medevacs with it. Ooh, Zerglings making their way on in. GUMIHO! That is not good. Zerglings are going to see absolutely everything. The Banshee has to be brought back. SCVs are going to try and fight, and they're going to do a decent job of it. We're still going to see about 4 SCVs go down in total. And that is pretty disastrous here for the Terran. SOO has a complete idea that, oh yeah, you're going, this 3 racks. Saw the engineering base, and so knows that this is going to be a timing attack. And so we'll see what the response is going to be from GUMIHO. He's going to keep going with his initial plan. Barracks are going to be swapped over onto the reactors. We should see medevacs added on after that Marine production has gotten into full swing. But this was not the start that you wanted as the Psystorm Terran. This was definitely not the start that you were looking for. And we'll see how GUMIHO is going to transition it. Because, of course, behind this, SOO going up to 56 workers, going to be going up to 66 on 3 bases. Has his gases ready, is not mining from them yet. Banelist on the way, and I would not be surprised if we once again saw that Spire. SOO seems very, very comfortable with the Muta play, and yep, there we go. Spire is going to go on down. Ooh. SOO finding his way in once again here. He's gonna, I think, yeah, focus down the mules here. He's gonna find a bit more damage. 2 SCVs falling, gets the 3rd. Meal finds way on out, but also behind that does manage to delay the 3rd base. We saw the Overlord here spreading creep. Does mean that the 3rd base for GUMIHO is going to be quite delayed. SOO is supply block from this, but it's not going to hurt SOO altogether that much. That supply block already has 6 Overlords in production, but actually 7 Overlords in production. This supply block does hurt for SOO. I think that should have been a preparation thing beforehand. If you know you're going to sacrifice that Overlord to delay the 3rd, have those extra OBs already in production. But the Spire is almost done, and SOO has saved up a good amount of resources. Not going to go for that massive 13 mutas at once swell, but is going to get out a good chunk here. Probably go for around 7. Just waiting to see the muta's getting added on. There we go. There we go. Muta's getting added on. Only 4. Okay, 6. I was going to be so confused if SOO just didn't build mutas. The +1/+1 on the way for the Zerg. Centrifugal hooks as well. You're going to see this Terran be able to manage about a 2 upgrade lead throughout most of this game with his 2/2 also on the way. There's a slight window where, once again, GUMIHO will have +2/+2 versus 0/0, and again, that was the window where I feel like GUMIHO should have been a bit more aggressive in the last game. but it wasn't game ending that he wasn't. It was really the fact that you just don't have your Thors there. Ooh, that's a nice catch. GUMIHO already prepared for the Dropper Lords, had those Marines sent up with that medevac just a little bit earlier. This Banshee is once again going to try and find its way across the map, but Overlord did spot it. Mutos are going to come on through, and overall, this Banshee is really going to cause no harm at all. Engineering bays working on that +2/+2. Armory has also been added on, so you will get the vehicle and ship plating upgrade, which is a bit of a interesting choice. Of course, if you're going Widowmine production, it makes sense. With double factory, you're going to be able to get out both tanks and Widowmines. So, actually, no, it's double, double tech lab. So it's just going to be the ship plating on Thors here, which is a pretty interesting choice from GUMIHO. It essentially means that you're really just going to be relying on the stacking damage of the Thors alongside the stacking AoE of the Thors alongside the DPS of these Marines to deal most of your damage. It's not going to be anything like getting your +2 vehicle weapons where your Thors and tanks suddenly punch holes through absolutely everything, anything and everything that they can, and there's no question about it. But instead it's going to be a lot more about that sustain and supporting the Marine ball that is going to be behind this. Now SOO is maxed out. We're seeing a 200 supply Zerg right now. It's a whole lot of Belos sitting at 18 right now. These Marines just trying to find a little bit of value where they can, and of course they have 2-2, so they trade quite well. Eventually SOO is going to try and pull around this rock wall, but wants to knock it down, so he has that additional attack path available to him. As now 2 tanks at a time also on the way to help protect these bases again. Hardwire is a great map for tanks. Just look at all the choke points that you can take advantage of. This creep spread is going to get shut down, is absolutely what GUMIHO needs to start doing. SOO's creep has been pretty much unharmed up until this point in the game, and that is a very, very dangerous line to toe as GUMIHO, where you're sitting back, you're macroing up onto 4 bases, and you're saying, all right, you can attack me, and if you do, you're not going to be able to kill me. And I'm just going to try and get to the point where my Terran macro is so strong that as long as I keep taking efficient trades, I will win this game. But here we go. We're going to see SOO go on in, but you're fighting into missile turrets and Thors with those mutas. And it's absolutely not worthwhile. 6 mutas do end up going down. We see SOO here taking about 900 more minerals lost in total over the course of this game. Of course, that's not game ending, as these Marines are just going to fight. They're just going to fight. This is 2-2 versus 1-1. The split back should be good enough as the Baneling's trying to roll on through, but they just cannot find the connections. The Mutalists do pull back. They stay alive. Their flock now at 21. As 68 more Zerglings, 14 more Banelings. SOO has a massive mineral bank right now to work with, sitting at a very, very healthy 6 base. And I believe, yeah, just the 6 hatcheries. Hasn't added on a macro hatch yet into his main. That's sometimes what we'll see players do. Of course, if you want that additional production for these remaxes, if you're going to continually throw your army at your opponent, it can be very, very useful. That does not seem like it's going to be entirely the plan for SOO. He is taking his time just a little bit. He's going to dive on in. Ooh, doesn't get the sensor tower. That's just going to be repaired on up, so GUMIHO can continue to track the movement of the Mutalists as the tank line is just is continually going to be pushed up. We already have a massive tank line here, all of them with +1 armor. +2 is going to be done very, very shortly, and you have the 3-3 as well for the bio. You see the splash damage of the Thors, even with the 0, even without attack upgrades, is still pretty substantial. Of course, it does take +2 vehicle weapons for Thors to start two-shotting the mutas with their AoE missiles. As look at this Baneling swarm here from SOO. And he's just going to try and roll it on through, but there is a wall already made. The tanks finding some really great value, and SOO, his supply just drops. Trying to get on top of the tanks, but missile turrets are there to support them. And GUMIHO, again, he's just saying, come at me. Do that, SOO. That's what I want. I'm sitting back. I'm at 4 bases. I'm adding on more command centers. I'm adding on this mech army, which I'm eventually going to start upgrading, as now the +1 vehicle weapons is on the way. And that's exactly what GUMIHO wanted. He had the wall already made, he had the tanks, and they have found so much value. 16 kills on that tank, 23 on the other, 11 and 10. These tanks are in great position, and it's so hard for SOO to just attack. And again, with this Slingbane composition, if you're just sitting around on it, it's honestly not that efficient, as that's going to be a nice catch onto a Ghost. I didn't even realize that actually GUMIHO had built that, but yeah, already has a Ghost Academy. Up is now going to start producing Ghosts 3 at a time for the snipes, as well as that EMP if Vipers and Infestors are added on. +3/+3 for the Zerg in all facets: flyer attacks, melee, and ground carapace. Just trying to find their way on. It is only, 2 missile turrets, which is not quite enough. You still lose a Mutalisk to it. But you're just seeing the efficiency game here from GUMIHO. 4,000 more minerals lost now for the Kwangdong Zerg. SOO is trying to poke around. More missile turrets being built up. And there's just going to be a massive bank that GUMIHO is making his way towards. But this planetary, this should be forfeit. There's not quite any way that survives. Banelings do a lot of damage, but can you get this army out is the real question. The tank getting so much value, and oh my! Was that inefficient as the Banelings just explode on a few Marauders? The rest of the Zerglings are going to get cleaned up. The Mutas try and find their way back on in, but it's 3 missile turrets. And SOO is just shoved back at every front here. These 2 missile turrets now going to be able to find even more value. And SOO, he's trying to find openings. He finally does create one by busting open this production. But the Thors are dropped down. Don't have +1 just yet. It only finishes now. As again, this tank line for GUMIHO is getting so much value as the upgraded bunker now is here as well. And this resources loss is starting to get ridiculous. 6,000 more in favor of the Terran. 6,000 less. The Zerg, of course, though, isn't really worrying about resources lost at this point. You still have a massive bank. SOO has taken all 8 bases on his side of the map, and that means that his economy right now is absolutely booming. We're looking at, 3,400 minerals per minute. You just have to be careful with now Ghosts and Thors out. There's just so many threats for them to fight against, and personal cloaking on the way, the +2 vehicle weapons, and once you get both those upgrades out, it is really not safe for the Mutas to really be across the map at all without the threat of them just being immediately shot from the sky. As the Advax will get on out. More command centers being added on. GUMIHO is currently sitting, I believe, at 7 command centers, with more on the way, going to be going up to 10. Infernal Pre-Igniter, Ghosts, and we're seeing this is what Maru has been doing. Is again, it's the bio into this kind of mech transition where you're getting Hellions, you're getting tanks, Thors, and Ghosts, and it's you're just going mech Ghost off the back of it while you buy time to get your upgrades with the bio. And we're seeing SOO is having a really hard time, punching through this defense from GUMIHO. And of course, what we would say is, well, SOO, why don't you look for a transition? And the answer is there's not really a solid transition for SOO to go for until he's able to find significant damage against the Terran, and this is where he's going to try and find it. Baneling's going to roll on through this wall. Tanks are finally going to start to fall, but snipes will go down onto the Mutalisks. The mineral line is going to be exposed, but that is all the value you're going to get once again. SOO takes a horrendous fight. Is now 9,000 minerals behind in that resources lost, and this is where it starts to stack up, is when you have this Terran player who is turtling up, and you know that as SOO, you have to try and find some sort of an opening in order to transition properly. You need to find some significant portion of damage for any transition to be safe, whether that is Hydras and Lurkers, whether that's going to be going into Broodlord Corruptor or Broodlord Infestor. If you don't get rid of a significant chunk of workers or units, or both ideally, with this Slingbane, then GUMIHO just has the army already ready to deal with it. He has 4 Thors. He right now has 15 Ghosts. You can't really afford to transition to any of your high-tier tech units as the Zerg, because they're just going to get killed. So here we go again. Banelings rolling on in. Bio's going to stim back. The Ghosts do manage to get away. The Thors just tanking up so many Banelings. as 12 workers do go down. And of course, I mean, finding worker damage is nice here, but with how many orbital command centers there are, the mules will just immediately refill that void. And SOO is sitting at 102 workers right now. Again, it's a 9-base Zerg now. SOO has 10 hatcheries, or soon will have 10 hatcheries. 9 bases. He is taking up so much income on this map. Is really going to be necessary soon for GUMIHO to start mining just a little bit more. 67 workers. And a lot of those, I mean, they're on this new base that has just been established in the top left-hand corner. The 7th coming up, or the 6th base coming up here for GUMIHO. That's, uh-oh, Ghost. Can't let those get caught out. The surround, though, is going to come through. A lot of them are going to start to fall as SOO, he thinks he's found the opening. But look at the mutas. They are just falling from the sky like flies. As this trade, again, SOO thought he had an opening, but that was not the case. So many missile turrets. So much just available for the Terran on the defensive end. And SOO is once again going to remax. 114 Zerglings, 4 Mutalisks. And even now, I mean, this is where it starts to feel a little bit ridiculous. Like, maybe SOO should start to transition off the back of this, because you managed to get rid of a lot of your army. You traded off some units. A lot of ghosts are dead. The ghost count that was at 14 is now down to 6. You know, you've killed off 9 of them. But we're just going to see, once again, Lingbane trying to continue to bust through these defenses. More and more missile turrets being added on the SimCity. Continually being created here for GUMIHO. Oh, look at this position. SOO going to try and make his way on in, but again, it's Thors that are doing the majority of the tanking tanks here. Are going to have to be retargeted onto the Banelings. There's so many Banelings for SOO. And he's going to try and crash through once again. The bio just has to stim back. The ghosts are running away. And honestly, at this point, you might just tank with the ghost. There's enough money left, and that's exactly what GUMIHO does, but he runs the Marines in. 12 SCVs are going to fall, and suddenly GUMIHO's supply drops. Snipes will go down. The mutas are going to start to fall, but I mean, this was the damage that SOO needed. He knocks down GUMIHO's supply. He finds the fight. He gets rid of the Thors. And the tank line really wasn't useful. The tanks and the Liberators, they're at the other base that isn't really mining right now. So there wasn't enough support for GUMIHO to fall back to really be able to take that fight convincingly. And that's why you saw SOO continue forward. That's why you saw SOO keep trying to find damage and keep rolling those Banelings on through, because he realized, listen, you do not have enough at this location. And now GUMIHO's bank is gone. SOO, he still has a massive bank on this 9 base economy, 10 hatcheries. He's going for take, I mean, at this point, take 7. He's just going to pull back, regroup. Banelings now coming on through. And GUMIHO, why are you out this far on the map? You need to be closer to home, because if you're not, then SOO is just going to clean it up. And now the target is the mineral line once again. And there's so much energy and mules that are at this base that is going to fall. As SOO finally has broken through the Terran chokehold. He's going to continue to max out here on the Lingbane Muta. Again, at this point, for GUMIHO, the Thors are good, but you need something more. You need splash damage. You need SimCity, especially for the Banelings, and that has sort of been rebuilt here by his 4th or by his 5th base. But there's not enough towards the 6th. That's 30, now 40 workers mining here for the Terran. The Mule Hammers have been dropped with how much energy he has on these orbital commands. It's still not enough to outmine the 98 workers. And again, GUMIHO, why are you out here? You need to be closer to your defenses. As SOO is going to roll through, all of the bio is going to fall. The Thor is getting microed, but that is it. It is eventually going to get killed. The medevacs are going to go down. And sure, SOO dips in supply, but he can remax. He has the bank. He has the bases. He has the larva. And GUMIHO, 3 times in a row now, caught out away from SimCity, away from tank support, away from really anything that would allow him to retreat back to his safe position. the dark is the night is dark and it is full of banelings. SOO once again, 43 more banes. His gas bank is actually getting quite low at this point, but he's gonna put more drones on gas at his additional bases. And the massive economy of SOO right now just coming in clutch. As we finally see more tanks have been moved down, but it just really does not matter. Ghosts on the high ground looking for snipes. The mutas are just going to dive on top. They know that they have enough. The tank is going to fall. The tanks are going down. There is just nothing left here for the Terran. It is scraps. It is a resistance against the deserved swarm. And SOO, I mean, what a game he played here in the late game. 102 drones going up to that massive, massive economy. And making it work. Overlords to get back to 200 supply. Ghosts are being rebuilt, Thors are being rebuilt, Liberators as well. GUMIHO knows he needs another base as tanks are moved up, but that means that this is a fairly exposed position if SOO comes in from multiple angles, but he's just going to go in from the front. He says, listen, I just have too much, and he might just be right, as SOO is going to just crush through absolutely everything. The banelings get so much value, and that resource is lost. Sure, it doesn't look pretty, but when you have 9 mining bases, you really don't need it to be pretty. SOO has been mining about 2,000 more minerals per minute for the last 12 minutes. I mean, 1,000 to 2,000 more minerals at the very least. And it shows as here we go, SOO, he's gonna dive on in, more banelings, more of everything, and he says, who needs tier 3? I'm gonna make it work with the Lingbane Muta as the Thors are gonna start to fall. The army count, the only thing that GUMIHO had going for him, is gone as 6 more workers are gonna fall. GUMIHO is knocked down to 63 supply. And no matter how much you micro that Thor, he's gonna die. GG, SOO's going up 2-0. And we've had 2 pretty long games in a row, so we'll see if that track record continues. Of course, Berlingrad is a map that a lot of Zerg players will try to avoid against Terran, just because of the layout. They tend to not like it. It feels like Terran has a lot of advantages, and at least that's what I've heard. Actually, is that Protoss? I don't remember. That might be Protoss. Either way, Berlingrad is a pretty good map for Terran. So GUMIHO, we'll see if he has any special plans for this map, or if it's just going to be the standard opening that he's been doing for these last few games, which is definitely a possibility. He might just go for the same thing again. We will see. We will see. As for SOO, it's weird. SOO, I think, in both of these games, actually, really just got his advantages in understanding where he needed to put his attention in the late game when it came to the macro. And obviously in game 1, that was in trying to find that opening with the Lingbane while the Terran was still transitioning into Thors. And he got a little bit lucky that GUMIHO accidentally trapped his own Thors in his main, because that was 2 Thors that could have been potentially, you know, fighting there that were just not able to. And so that game 1, it was a little bit lucky, but SOO did also just find a very, very good timing where GUMIHO was not quite ready for him to come on in. And then game 2, of course, it was once again trying to find that opening, but really just trying to find the breaking point where GUMIHO is constantly getting beat down and just does not have enough to survive the eventual final wave. You know, when you're sitting on 9 bases, obviously SOO got a massive worker count because he realized that's what he needed to focus on, and that was really where his advantage came from. And so heading into game 3, I don't know if GUMIHO is gonna want to do another macro game, because you've done it twice in a row and it just hasn't worked. SOO has shut it down both times, and it's been with really simple, just Lingbane, constant pressure, and it has been able to do the trick. Now, We are seeing Banshees here from GUMIHO. That starport was built on the Tech Lab, and it is going to be Cloak this time around. And I mean, last game, of course, we saw the Banshees without the Cloak. They didn't really end up doing anything at all. So GUMIHO is going to be putting a little bit more of an investment into these units to try and get just a little bit more value out of them. And he's going to be tag teaming it alongside these Hellions. Sorry about that. I'm disconnected. Oh no. But it's going to be tag teaming along with these Hellions to try and find some worker damage. The first 2 Hellions are going to go across the map, though, and look for this third base. Where, see if there are any workers. Just the 2. Nice Spore Crawler morph, and yeah, Su's not going to really take any damage just so far. The real threat is going to come with this Banshee. Now, interestingly enough, a second Banshee is not in production. Normally, you'd like to see 2 Banshees because then you have enough to one-shot the drones with 2 Banshees, but that's not going to be the choice here for GUMIHO. Instead, it's that faster stim immediately into 2 more barracks, and then I imagine we'll swap over this factory and this starport potentially, as the Banshee is going to make its way on in. No other threats currently available, but we'll be able to at least get a drone or 2. That's about it. It takes actually even more than half of its health bar before it eventually retreats out. And GUMIHO not finding much success in this early game. Now, of course, what GUMIHO has to his advantage is the fact that we have seen SOO be unable to really scout the fact that this is a 3 racks follow-up with the stim, with the +1. There's actually not a lot of scouting that's been happening for the Zerg player. There's no information on the Tech Lab. The main base is completely dark. That Overlord was not suicided in to find out what's going on. And so right now, SOO is playing in the dark, and there's going to be a pretty strong timing attack that's coming for him. It's going to be Marines with stim, combat shields, and some tanks. Or not the combat shields, but with stim at least, a lot sooner than you might expect. And especially with Berlingrad, which is a map with a very, very short rush distance. This can start to get very, very scary as the Banshee is now going to start to poke down some of these queens. Marines are just keeping right outside of the creep range, and that's another round of drones. Oh, GUMIHO. I think he's handled this very, very well. He knows exactly where his advantage is. So we look to try and spring the trap now onto these queens. SOO trying to back up, knows that something's up immediately. He's going to put some units into the production. No stim just yet, because of course, without any medevacs, GUMIHO does not want to use up that life. As the cloak once again comes through, the queens are going to start to be knocked down. One queen getting very, very low before transfuses are going to come through, as now the tank is set up. And SOO is going to have to bring in all of his reinforcements, but there's no Banelings. No, the Banelings are trapped behind the queens. SOO! All of the Zerglings go down, the Banelings go in, but it's far too late, and they just get picked off. As that was disastrous for SOO. GG! GUMIHO picks up a game. That was a quick one. Bottom left-hand corner. Got a win on the board. It is Sidestorm Gaming's GUMIHO. And in the bottom right, the Guangdong Freaks was looking for the sweep, but that is no longer on the table. Scouting. Pretty important. It's pretty good. It's SOO. And of course, the Banelings getting locked in. Oh, every Zerg player is gonna have nightmares from seeing that. I think even with those Banelings, I don't know if SOO actually would have had enough to even be able to fight. I mean, it was just... There was too much. GUMIHO, I think, hid his build very, very well and managed to find the timing very efficiently. And so it was going to be rough, no matter what SOO did, or no matter what SOO did. It was going to be very, very rough. And so tried his best. His best was not enough. GUMIHO comes out on top. 6 minutes flat. He's going to be able to take that game number 3 and suddenly put himself in a position. Oh, score was wrong. There we go. I hate that it doesn't swap the scorecards when you swap the player names. But it's now going to put him in a position where he can potentially start to find his way back into this series. And we're on to Blackburn. This, of course, is a map that I think in the past has been pretty heavily favored towards the Terrans. So we will see if this ends up really being the key, the gateway to GUMIHO finding success back into this series and potentially on his way back to a reverse sweep. First Reaper coming on out, and other than that, the build's looking pretty normal from here on out. Factory's gonna come. No 3-rack shenanigans. That's a Beyond thing. That's something that Beyond will do when he's preparing for a tournament and doesn't want to show off his builds. He will do a 3-racks. Other than that, it's really not that viable in TVZ. See the Ling fight, and well, I mean, yeah, it's just gonna go about as normal as you'd expect. There's nothing crazy here. I'm not gonna be like, whoa! GUMIHO gets a Ling into the orange. Yeah, it's pretty normal, and we're gonna see what the strategy is. And there we go, GUMIHO immediately going for that fast third CC, and I think that's a good choice. Again, Blackburn is a map that in the late game, Terran I think has a very nice, can have a nice time on, at least in the mid game. Once it gets to the late game and you have Broodlords, it gets a little bit sketchy for the Terran with the cliffs and the vision control. But in the mid game, this map can have some really nice options for double-pronged attacks, for splitting the map with 2 armies, and so that seems to be kind of where GUMIHO wants to propel this game towards very, very quickly. Metabolic boost is going to be on the way, starport as well, and everything is nice and calm here in the world of TVZ on Blackburn. It is going to be interestingly enough, the Viking first here. This is the only time that we've seen GUMIHO actually go for a Viking right off the bat. Usually it's been some mixture of a Banshee or just, you know, kind of delaying that starport until you need to get medevacs, but he's going to be getting the Viking to clear up vision, and this is a game where SOO does have his overlords pushed a little bit farther forward than he usually does. Again, SOO is a player, and I'll say this a million times, this is pointed out very, very well, is very conservative with his overlords. He will maybe send 1 across the map, sometimes 2, but usually just the 1 overlord, and so sometimes you can take full advantage of that as the Terran with drops. If you get a Viking out, you can just clear out SOO's vision across the match or across the map, and SOO will not really replace those overlords. He will not go out of his way to get that vision back. And so we see here, GUMIHO gets the Viking out. He's going to go immediately into the fusion core, and that means that we're going to be headed towards battle cruisers and most likely mech play here for GUMIHO on Blackburn. And especially if this is going to be unscouted mech play, it can start to be very, very scary for SOO to deal with, because he's not going to realize it until it might be just a little bit too late. Now, queen production is going to remain constant. We're looking at already 7 queens on the map, going up to 8. That can, of course, fight 1 battlecruiser. As there's a minor supply block there for GUMIHO. Does manage to alleviate it, and the BC is on the way. And, I mean, battlecruisers used to be like the go-to option on Blackburn just because of the kind of the inhibitor zones around the main base airspace and how the bases were laid out. There was a lot of dead airspace, and so a lot of players liked going for the BCs on this map. We haven't seen it in a while, and so GUMIHO now going to be bringing it back. 2 more factories on the way. It will be mech with this fast third base. And again, will SOO be able to read into what this is? And there's just no information for the Zerg, and so GUMIHO should get away scot-free with this opening. There's going to be no threat of being punished. Of course, has this very, very large group of Hellions that are out across the map, and now they're going to look to try and dive on into the mineral line, but that's a bit of a tight squeeze. GUMIHO's not going to risk it, just gets on out, doesn't want to lose more units than he absolutely has to. The Queens are going to push away the Hellions from the 4th base. There we go, tactical jump into the natural. There are no spores, and this is usually where SOO does actually skip his spore crawlers, is in the natural. And it's a question of, I don't know if GUMIHO actually knew that, or if that was just a guess, but it still works out very, very nicely. Now hops up into the main, is going to harass the gas mining here of SOO. Already 7 drones going down, and this is already a very, very worthwhile endeavor here for GUMIHO as the second battlecruiser is on the way. This one is going to try and find its way on out. It is very slow. This capital ship, speed is not its forte. As creep is going to be cleaned up once again around this fourth and now into the third. More and more drones are going to start to fall. 10 going down, 11 and 12. As the Spire is now under fire, Cyclone's on the way, and GUMIHO, this damage is starting to ramp up, but the Hellions have to be careful. You can't get caught out by these Lings. A good KD8 charge is going to be able to knock a lot of them back, and almost the entire Ling force of SOO now getting cleaned up. The BC is still trying to cause as much havoc as possible. It is a bit low on health, and he's just going to try and back on up. But there's going to be another one very, very shortly, and mind you, right now, SOO, he's on 76 workers. That is just on the 3 bases. GUMIHO has almost even saturation now. He's going to go back on into the natural, and look at that big clump of overlords. Of course, there is no Yamato cannon just yet, so you can't start to Yamato down the queens, which would be a very, very nice benefit here if GUMIHO was able to, but he's still just going to find more damage. 18 drones going down, more and more. SOO doesn't pull away the drones, and 20 have fallen in total. And this resources lost is not looking good this early in the game. GUMIHO is up in supply at the 8-minute mark. And he's going mech. As SOO is going to be... I mean, he's going to be playing from behind this game. Now Hellions going to make their way on out. +1/+1 is on the way for this mech army. Again, the battlecruiser is going to dive on in. The damage is just continuing to ramp up. And add on more spores, SOO. He needs more in these bases, but he just has not been able to. He only has enough queens to really push back the battlecruisers in one spot. As finally, SOO's going to try and catch these Hellions, but not before they trade off quite a few Lings for their numbers. And with the 28 workers that have fallen, we now have GUMIHO at a 4-worker lead. Teleports out. Not even a battlecruiser lost. Both of them survive. Yamato cannon on the way. A 3rd battlecruiser being added on. And look at that. 2,000 more minerals lost. 8 minutes and 46 seconds into this game is absolutely insane. We're going to see the worker transition into the gold base. GUMIHO is now going to be on a 4-base economy as a meching Terran. Oh no. That is not a situation that SOO wants to be in. He's working on his flyer attacks. But even then, what are you going to go as SOO? You are behind. You need to get yourself back into this game somehow. What is the option? Is it going to be Mutalisk? Well, there's already Thors on the way. And mind you, this is GUMIHO. This guy invented the Thor drop. I mean, not invented, but this was the Thor drop guy. He would put 2 Thors in some medevacs, and he'd say, hey, look at me, I'm the Thor drop guy. We all know that. I don't know if the mutas are really going to be the right call here for SOO, but he's built up a massive mutaflock behind this. He's looking for a 24 muta backstab here into the base of GUMIHO. How many Thors are there right now? Actually, there's only 2 out, and if there was going to be a chance for SOO to find damage, this might be it. The Thors aren't out in a high enough number to really threaten the mutas. Only have the +1, not the +2, but still, you just have to be so careful with the Thors already out. Even though there's only 2, you can't dive in like SOO wanted to there to really find damage, and now you just have these 24 mutas, 26 now, that are going to be on BC cleanup duty. And of course, that does have its value, but Yamato cannons are going to go down. 3 Yamatos, 3 TPs, and we're just going to see, in total, I think about 5 or so Mutalisks fall. And it's a nice snipe onto a battlecruiser. GUMIHO was a bit late there with the tactical jump. But 3 Thors at a time. Roaches are now being added on, +2 ground melee attacks, +1 ranged, and the Roach speed, of course, all on the docket. The Muta's got to be careful here. Again, another Thor. Just waiting. It knows what SOO wants to do. Unfortunately, SOO's strategy in game number 2 is not going to work. You can't throw Ling Bane at your opponent until they keel over and die, especially with a player going mech. Especially with a meching player who is ahead of you in workers. With a meching player that is almost going to be even on you with bases, is even on you with income, and is even with you in upgrades. It is just not a very good position for SOO. Now, this is some good harassment using these mutas here at the gold base. He's gonna knock down 15 workers, and that is that's the damage that you generally just need. As GUMIHO has this small kind of battle mech army here at the bottom side of the map. Is gonna try and trade off here against the Banelings. Some good splits onto the Hellbats. Does mean that they're actually gonna absorb quite a bit of damage, and now the Cyclones lock on to, ooh, the Ravagers is gonna be stopped. And SOO has slowly been starting to even out these trades as he's building up a bank. He's maxed out, working on his +2 flyers. But once these +3 upgrades come through for this mech army, I mean, what are you looking at for GUMIHO? It's 7 Thors! 7 Thors! There are no tanks! There's 1 tank! 7 Thors here for GUMIHO, and that mutant count, it really doesn't have any purpose when there are 7 Thors. Now, the real worry is going to be on the ground. What do you have? It's just not a lot. It's just the Thors, and against Lings and Banes, those don't do so well. So SOO, this might be the opening, but it just does not have enough. The battle cruisers are too strong. The Thors are too strong. The entire army for SOO is going to go down. And that was without the 3-3 upgrades. The 2-2 is enough to make this army formidable. And now 7 more Hellions being added on at a time. GUMIHO knows that he's going to need that anti-Zergling. 14 Corruptors are here, but mind you, it's 14 Corruptors, 44 Battle Cruisers, and GUMIHO's main army isn't even in the BCs. Right now, I mean, sure, you're going to have about 24 army supply in the Battle Cruisers, but you have even more in these Thors. Right now, we're looking at a 32 supply in total, now knocked on up to 40 supply of Thors. Tanks will eventually be added on. 3-3 on the way. It is inching ever and ever closer to being completed, and once it is, your army as a Zerg just does not have the staying power that you would like, and it's a nice air Zerg army that SOO has constructed, but against this mech army, not entirely sure how it's going to work out. Now, this is a nice play here. Going to try and clean up the planetary, but oh, the blocking, is it going to be good enough? The repairs? Oh my, GUMIHO focuses down the Banelings. There were not enough, and now he's going to push the front with just a massive 10 Thor 4 battle cruiser army. And SOO, he committed the Lings across the map. They did not get the damage that he wanted. The Corrosive Biles, though, are going to find a lot of value. A lot of those battle cruisers get weakened. But even with that, +3 armor is done for vehicles. +3 weapons is on the way. The tanks now pushing forward. Corrosive Biles onto that Thor are going to be dodged. Banelings rolling on in, but it's Banelings versus Thors. I mean, where's the Zerglings? You need Zerglings versus this. It's maybe not the best. The Banelings get some value as the Thors are going to start to get cleaned up, but there's still more of them left, as the production for GUMIHO is just hitting more and more ridiculous amounts. 4 Thors at a time, a tank, and 6 Hellions to reinforce. The BCs, of course, did have to teleport out because of the threat of the Corruptors diving on top of them. They were perfectly happy to do so. Retaining these 4 battle cruisers, I mean, GUMIHO had just lost so little in this game in terms of his high-tech units. That was the worst trade that he's taken since he got this mech army really going, and now suddenly he's sitting up 30 supply. And it's really looking like we're going to be headed here to a game number 3, or game number 5, headed to that match point. SOO's going to try and clean this up. Corrosive Biles are actually very, very good. Yamato cannons are going to go off, but the Corrosive Biles, they snipe off a lot of the battle cruisers. And GUMIHO, he needs his whole army here. It is not all with this attack. The tank is trying its best to clean up the Ravagers. More and more Thors are joining the fight. There we go. Smart Servo is going to make that transformation for the Hellbats just that much quicker. The Thors now going to be joined in once again. Hellbats are needed to deal with those Zerglings. The +2/+2. GUMIHO actually not taking as good of a trade as I think everyone thought he would. It was a little bit sloppy there with the control. The Corrosive Biles were great from SOO, but even with that, is it going to be enough? +3 melee attacks are done. If you can get a strong Zergling count here again, this Fling Bane, if it can blow up the Hellbats, if it can get on top of the Thors, the Lings can get on top of the Thors, that can make a world of difference. Of course, you don't have... I mean, Adrenal Gland's actually done too. You have Cracklings. This is maybe Su's last chance. Needs to max out here on whatever he can. I mean, Su's trying to save, I think, supply here for Broodlords with this Greater Spire, but that is just not what you need to be doing right now. The Broodlords are not going to be what saves you, especially when there are Thors right on your doorstep. Ooh, this might be nice, though. Su going to find interception, but you just see these Thors, they take up so many Banelings. That's not how you want to be using your Banes, and Su, he's down to 150 supply. He has a 2,000 mineral bank, but he can't spend it because he has 2 queens. And that's why Su is not maxed out right now. There are no queens. There's nothing left for him to try and be able to take this fight, as it's a maxed out Terran army, and the Raptors are going to try their best, but it's just not enough. 16 drones fall, and the supply tells the story. It does not lie. The Greater Spire might be here, but it is not in time. The bases are going to fall. And ladies and gentlemen, you know what this means. You know what this means. We're going to a game 5. Tanks are going to siege. GG! GUMIHO ties it up. I am so happy that this went to a game 5. I was kind of worried when I saw Su go up 2-0. I'll be honest. I was like, oh no. This is going to be like a situation with our Super Series where it was Beyond versus Su. And Su just 3-0'd it. But no, that's not the case. GUMIHO has given us hope here. He's brought it back, and now suddenly all fate lays in the hands of these players on the largest map in the map pool. 9 bases on each side of the map. Pretty long rush distance to boot. It's not actually the longest rush distance that there's ever been, but it's still hefty. We'll see what happens. Spawning pool on the way. Command center. Is GUMIHO gonna once again go for that fast 3cc? It seems to have been pretty... It seems to have worked. I'll be honest. The first game where GUMIHO went a fast 3rd cc, it was really, really good. Game number 4 goes it again. Is able to bring it out to a back row game. I really do feel like it might be the way to go for GUMIHO. Here is my question, because I was not quite paying attention. Did GUMIHO go for a command center first? Because that is, yeah. Am I tripping? Is that CC before barracks, if I'm not wrong? Because that is a very fast orbital command, and that is an incredibly good build choice, considering that this is game 5. And I will explain. So, essentially, what GUMIHO is saying here is, listen, right now, we have played a total of about 3 macro games. You've won 2, and I've won 1. Obviously, Su is going to be pretty comfortable with the macro. Su is going to be very, very comfortable, actually, probably, in a game where you go into the mid to late game. And GUMIHO, I mean, knows that Glittering Ashes is a very, very large map. He's on the brink of this reverse sweep. He's going to go for the CC first. He knows from the last 4 games that Su is most likely not going to cheese, and also, Su is not that kind of a player. And it really does feel like GUMIHO knows that. And even to boot, throws on a fast 3rd command center as well. And I am loving the build choice here from GUMIHO. And we'll have to see if it pays off, because of course this is a very, very risky gambit. Now it is once again going to be the Cloaked Banshees from GUMIHO. We'll be adding on the Hellions. Those, of course, can get across the map quite quick. No! Cloak and a Viking. Is it just going to be for a fake Cloak is the question. As the Reaper is actually going to be able to harass a few of these drones here. Gets them quite low. Oh! GUMIHO. I feel like he could have gone for that drone. More Zerglings popping out are going to be able to get rid of the Reaper. But the Viking first is interesting. Of course, it does kind of indicate that potentially GUMIHO just wants to go a single Cloak Banshee, but no, he does cancel the upgrade. Viking and Raven and Stim Pack. This is a very interesting build here from GUMIHO. The Raven isn't a unit that you see a lot in TVZ. It is not is not really that common, just because it is very easy for the Zerg to snipe the Raven. If they go for something like Mutalisks, even Queens can snipe them. But it is a very useful unit. You no longer need to use scans to clear creep, and so suddenly that opens up a lot of your energy to be used for mules. And once your energy is open to be used for mules, then that opens the pathway for the Terran macro to get into, kind of kick into gear a lot faster. This Overlord is going to barely escape death. There's an Overlord there at the top of the map that has been watching that Viking fly around and saying, whew, I think I'm the color of the lava. But this is super cool. This is so, oh my god, GUMIHO. Going up to 5 racks now on 3 bases with the stim. I'm loving it. I am in a McDonald's commercial. I am that smooth, silky voice narrator. As this is such a cool opening here from GUMIHO. Is now going to knock down some of this creep with the Raven and Hellions. Has Stimpack +1/+1. Will be hitting this timing attack with combat shields alongside his upgrades, is what it seems like. And it's going to be tanks. You're going to have a Raven. An armor will be added on. You might potentially have Hellbats if GUMIHO is able to retain these units. Now, SOO. SOO as well. Oh, these players are so good. These players are so good. Oh, I'm freaking out. SOO has finally made the change that we want. Has actually scouted out with an Overseer, with that Overlord staying alive, has actually gotten information from GUMIHO's main base. I think SOO realizing that was really an issue in these last few games. And so now knows exactly, hey, you got upgrades coming on the way, double upgrades. And of course, that's all that he knows. I think ideally, if SOO could seek 2 lings across the map to get even more, to know, all right, where's the 3rd base? Are you putting down a 4th command center? And also, what are your unit composition looking like? Would be ideal. But even with what SOO saw, this should be enough for him to realize that this is going to be an aggressive attack. The two engineering bays researching is a pretty big indication of that. And now, seeing the Stim Marines, seeing the tank and everything that is coming together here with the armory, we will soon also be able to see these Hellbats morph on in. And GUMIHO is going for a very, very strong 7-minute timing attack. 12 Banelings on the way. Where is the pre-split from GUMIHO? I don't think he realizes just how many Banelings are being committed on in. The Hellbats are going to tank up quite well and actually did a very good trade against the first few sets of Banelings. As the Viking here trying to fight is going to get knocked down by its own tank brethren. The pre-split is good. A lot of the Banelings are down, but more are going to come in to help reinforce, and GUMIHO is stuck inside of this little trap that SOO has now sprung. The chokehold, not quite enough to be held, as everything is going to go down. The tank is going to try and fight its best, but it will also fall. And SOO holds on with money to spare, as 18 more lings, more mutas on the way. +2/+2, though, is the immediate response for GUMIHO. 9 Marines at a time, and 2 factories! What? I mean, if you wanted to see essentially what is going to, I think, be a 3-base all-in here, no, the 4th command center will be added on. But GUMIHO is just preparing to get a very, very strong army here, and he does need to rebuild. The 2 factories, of course, will allow him to produce double tanks or double Thors if you would like, alongside Widow Mines. And really just feel like potentially those Widow Mines, again, I would love to see Widow Mines added in for GUMIHO. Even though he lost game 1, the Widow Mines were a good addition. They actually really helped him when he was trying to hold on at the very, very end, even without his Thors. But GUMIHO has not been adding them on since that game 1. +1 flyer attacks now finishing up. And SOO is already taking a 5th base. GUMIHO, he's going to need to muster an extremely strong attack. And of course, there's the potential for that happening. If GUMIHO hits when +2/+2 finishes, he will have a 4 upgrade advantage. He will have Thors. And he can make this look convincing. But it needs to be that exact timing. Oh, the Thors getting trapped again is just so frustrating for GUMIHO. Every Terran player feels that pain. South turret trying its best here. Refinery's going to go down. Ooh, a nice catch here. Marine's going to be able to snipe off 3 of the mutas. So just being a little bit sloppy. As GUMIHO, are you preparing for this timing attack? Is this what the choice is going to be, or are you just going to sit back and macro up? That's the 2 choices that the Terran has, because right now the game is thoroughly in SOO's hands. SOO has handled the pressure beautifully and is now in a situation where he really is controlling the pace. +1 vehicle weapons on the way. GUMIHO, he's trying to hold this 4th base location. 2 tanks at a time is now going to be getting into... Is that 3 factories with tech labs? I believe it is. This is 5 racks, 3 tech lab factories. Right now, GUMIHO is getting up, is going to try and get up a tank wall. He's going to try and entrench his defenses around this 4th base. As Amita's going to try and dive on in here to the natural. It is 3 missile turrets, but they're not close enough to really support each other, as all the missile turrets will fall. Marines are here, though. And so the damage is not going to be altogether that much, but none of the mutas are going to end up going down. And so far, the trades have been very, very even in this game. And look at how many banelings there are. That is scary for any player. I don't care how many tanks you have. When you're looking at 59 banelings, you're a bit scared as the Terran. But GUMIHO, he's entrenched this position, and we're seeing SOO is a little bit hesitant to try and dive on in. Both players maxed out. I mean, GUMIHO sitting at 72 workers. There's 92 drones available right now for SOO, working on his own +2/+2 to try and catch up in the upgrades department. Not far behind, though, is that 3-3 for the bio. The +1 for the vehicles as well is going to make these tanks just so much more, so much stronger alongside the Thors. I would love to see GUMIHO again go into that +2 vehicle weapons as well, right off the back of it. As we're going to be going up to 8 racks, and GUMIHO has managed to maneuver himself into the late game. Has managed to maneuver himself into 4 bases, and is a position where he's starting to build up a bank, but this is a nice backstab here from SOO. Just a few lings to find their way on in. The mutas also just going to be able to cause some havoc, but 3 Thors in medevacs. You have to be so careful as SOO, as that damage just stacks up very, very quickly. But 7 SCVs go down, and you only lose a singular Mutalisk, as the Terran has been trading more efficiently over the course of this, or less efficiently over the course of this game. Uh-oh, Muta's getting caught! Oh no, SOO! Takes so much damage. As the Hive is on the way, SOO has to be careful here. GUMIHO is starting to press out onto the map, is starting to clean up the creep. Baneling run by. SCVs are just gonna have to run away, as a singular Marauder will finally be brought over to help deal with that. Thors are just going to try and absorb the banelings, and honestly are going to do a good job of it. This round comes through, the pickups come through, this high ground position. GUMIHO, what a fight he is taking so far. The split's back, and oh my, GUMIHO! He baits SOO into the fight and just absolutely mops the floor with 104 Zerglings on the way as the Remax. But is it going to be soon enough? Tanks are now being pushed forward. Thors are still in medevacs. The Mutalisks are going to try and find a backstab because they know they need to try and get damage across the map in case SOO is not able to completely hold on to his bases. As SOO is remaxed out, needs to add on more bins, he needs to add on more units. Now we have Liberators being moved on in. GUMIHO, all it took was 1 fight being maxed out in order to make this work. SOO has 93 workers. 93 workers, and none of that is going to be useful if he's not going to be able to hold on to his base. He's now going to clean up that pre-split at the back of GUMIHO's forces here. Now Bailey's rolling on in. The tanks are getting low, but they're not going to fall. SOO is not able to break it with his first push. And how many queens are there left? There's 3, but I don't think the larva has been injected. GUMIHO, is he going to do it? It felt like SOO was in such a good position. But GUMIHO, the macro, he knew that he was behind after failing that attack. He just set up and got ready. These mutas, they're doing so much damage, but SOO needs so much more time in order to try and get back into this game now. He has a bank, but he doesn't have the larva. As tanks are going to get cleaned up. Very nicely done here by SOO using these mutas, but oh, that splash damage from the Thors. You can tell, I mean, even with just the +1, they do so much damage. SOO, is he going for the base race? No, you absolutely can't commit to that. I mean, SOO needs to set up a concave. He needs to set up something. He's going to split off half his units. He knows that he needs to hold here, but this is a little bit too staggered for SOO. His army's going in 2 chunks, and that's absolutely not what you want, as it looks like GUMIHO is going to be able to crush through. SOO did not wait long enough to set up that surround, and that means that GUMIHO makes it work. The reinforcements are going to come through, and what a game 5 to close it out here on Glittering Ashes, as SOO was up 2-0, but the reverse sweep from GUMIHO. GG!